Good morning. Lights. Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to those joining us online and viewing this. I'm Ifat Barak Cheney, and while many of you know me from the different hats that I've wore at the World Jewish Congress throughout the years, today I'm addressing you as the Executive Director of the WJC Institute for Technology and Human Rights. At the Institute, we partner with international organizations, governments, civil society partners, tech platforms, internet companies, and most importantly, with you, our Jewish communities, to make the digital space safer for all people. Today's conversation couldn't be more timely. In almost 591 days, we all saw how hate travels faster than facts. We must continue to focus on meaningful changes in policies and, most importantly, their enforcement online. And we are doing just that. And we're working shoulder to shoulder with companies like TikTok to shut down online hate before it starts. If you'd like to know more about our work, please come and talk to us. My colleague Maria is here as well, and we have a booth outside in the lobby with more information. We would love to meet you and talk to you about what can be done in your community. Now, I'm honored to introduce our guest today, and I'm very grateful to be joined today by Mr. Adam Presser, who made a very long journey to be here with us. Adam Presser is a Chief Operating Officer at TikTok, where he leads global trust and safety efforts for a community of over 1 billion users. Few people have a clear view of both the challenges and the opportunities that we face online. Please join me in welcoming Adam Presser.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning. So, Adam, before we dive deep into our topic today, tell us a bit about why this work personally matters to you.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ifat. Thank you to the World Jewish Congress for having me. And it's great to be with all of you. I come here today wearing 3 hats. The first is the professional one. As you alluded to, I lead our operations teams, which include our content teams, distribution, user support, and also our trust and safety team, which is focused on keeping the platform safe and really protecting against all forms of hate, especially anti-Semitism. The second is I am a member of the American Jewish community. I have lived the last 591 days amongst so many focused on the return of the hostages, still 58 left to come back. And the third is I am a dad to 2 Jewish girls who have been in Jewish preschool, the husband to the granddaughter of 4 Holocaust survivors. So the words "never again" resonate deeply in our household, and we focus a lot on the idea of preventing the perpetuation of anti-Semitism and hate. It's a topic of deep interest to us.
Great, and with that, we were just talking, Adam, before about how internet platforms today are actually reducing their protection for the users. But TikTok has decided to double down on its work to address hate on the platform. Could you share more about how TikTok is overall approaching the issue of anti-Semitism and hate speech on the platform today?
So I think the easiest way to understand our approach to countering hateful content, anti-Semitism, all forms of violative content on the platform is really to start from the beginning. The platform was founded in about 2018 with a very specific mission to inspire creativity and bring joy. Just quickly, show of hands, how many people here have used TikTok before? Okay, great, a good amount. I'm sure there's Wi-Fi around for those that haven't. You can download it easily. But the mission of inspire creativity and bring joy is very specific. Really, we started with the idea of being an entertainment platform, and our user base has historically been on the younger side. And those points are really important because they orient really the early focus on safety. The foundation of creativity and joy is providing a safe environment for people to feel comfortable expressing themselves. And so as a result, from the early days, we had a very clear focus on no hate speech, no promotion of terrorism, no nudity, graphic violence. These were all things we were very focused on. And particularly in the context of anti-Semitism, I think we were the first major platform to ban Holocaust denialism, which is hard to believe considering we were founded in 2018, and of course, many other platforms had been operating well before that. I think we were one of the first platforms, not the first, to launch in partnership with the WJC, the aboutholocaust.org landing page for people searching for Holocaust awareness information that has survival testimonials and pictures. So there was an early focus from our standpoint on not allowing the perpetuation of hateful content and anti-Semitism from the beginning, and it's something that certainly has continued even amidst the challenges that we've all seen over the course of the last 15, 16 months.
I know you've made some big commitments at TikTok to these changes, and everybody in this room, witnessed the rise of anti-Semitic hate speech online after October 7th, terrorist attacks. So, did TikTok react to this in any specific way, and how?
So, I'm sure, as with everybody, I remember that Saturday morning, at least West Coast time, starting to get the news about what was going on and immediately feeling just complete devastation at the early news reports, the images, and then also switching on that crisis mode because for the platform we deal with fast-moving events happening all over the world all the time. And so the early days were really focused on how do we make sure that we control the platform, ensure it's not being used for abuse, it's not being manipulated by any covert actors, and we can respond immediately. So that included surging language resources, Hebrew and Arabic, surging fact-checking. Of course, in a fast-moving event, it's really important to stay in front of conspiracy narratives and misleading comments. We included a search banner, which basically means if you were searching for information related to the content, we had a pop-up that essentially provided essentially a warning label to say these are rapidly unfolding events, and we directed people to news organizations for people looking for content about the event in real time. That was sort of the first phase of how do you get out of crisis mode. Then the second phase is how do you make sure that our policies are being reactive to what we're seeing on the ground. So we made a change to designate the use of the term Zionist as a proxy for a protected attribute as hate speech. So if somebody were to use Zionist, of course you can use it in the sense of you're a proud Zionist, but if you're using it in the context of degrading somebody, calling somebody a Zionist as a dirty name, then that gets designated as hate speech to be moderated against. Other changes really that we made can be thought of in terms of a project that we launched shortly after I took over this team, the Trust and Safety team. We started a project called TikTok Without Hate. And the focus is really against countering all forms of hate on the platform with 4 real strategies. The first is make sure that we're improving detection and enforcement. You referenced enforcement in one of your comments in the opening statement. So one of the things that we saw in leading into detection and enforcement was over the course of 2024, we tripled the amount of accounts that we were banning for hateful activity. The second was developing more tools to give creators and users a sense of the ability to control their own experience. So we developed a tool called Comment Care, which are basically comment care mode, which basically gives creators the opportunity to protect themselves. If they're seeing comments that don't necessarily qualify as hate speech, but they feel they're not something that they want to see on their own content, give the creators the opportunity to actually hide it, remove it from their own experience. This was actually ideas that came out of roundtable discussions that we did with a lot of Jewish creators after October 7th. The third was really having more opportunity for measurement and analytics that really informs your ability to enforce things, is to make sure that you're measuring it correctly. And the fourth is opportunity really for more engagement and promoting more positive norms through education. So over the course of the last 15 plus months, we've been involved in a number of different things like March of the Living. I think we just came back from our second trip of March of the Living, where we sent, this year we sent 14 Israeli creators. Last year we sent a delegation of international creators to essentially create content around that experience, joining WJC at the 80th anniversary of the Auschwitz liberation, partnering with Zikaron Basalon around really promoting awareness around content creators. We started the TikTok Shoah Commemoration and Education Initiative, where we brought Holocaust awareness organizations and commemoration organizations and trained them on how to create content. Of course, these challenges are pervasive and they change constantly, but the focus is really around how do we make sure that we can be as responsive to what we're seeing online, and this partnership has been a big part of that.
No, and we're grateful. You know, the people here have advocated a lot on the issue of Zionists as a proxy for Jews, so we're definitely very grateful for the platforms for taking that on. I think that's where a lot of us suffer a lot of anti-Semitism online, and it's been a significant change. Let's look for a little bit into the future. You know, both you mentioned, you know, these challenges keep changing. Our technology obviously keeps changing. What do you see as your big challenges going forward in this field?
Well, certainly the challenge around fast-moving dialogues, people finding new ways to be hateful online. We can share some examples of that. The second is really around AI. AI can be...
Good, because I can't go without mentioning AI here. So.
Okay. So AI is both a huge risk, but also a big opportunity. And these two things go together. So for example, at the scale that we operate and that any platform operates, it is a constant challenge to try and identify and find all of the hateful content that exists online. And people will always look for new ways to try and express very old, hateful sentiments. And so, to give one example, if there were a picture or a video of a fast car, and somebody were to write a comment underneath that said gas, that would be contextually relevant. Somebody is maybe talking about the car itself. But if somebody were to show an image of a prominent Israeli leader or Jewish leader and write that comment underneath, it would have very different context. And that is part of the challenge of how do you make sure that you're spotting the violative, the hateful content and moderating it. The opportunity that AI brings is the opportunity for all of that context that somebody who is trained and knows about history to exist within the technology itself. And so one of the things that we're really excited about is being able to bring that technology to bear to be able to help with the moderation efforts and really do it fast at scale. So one thing that I think is really exciting with that challenge is what's the opportunity that technology brings. And then there are a few other things that we are particularly focused on, commitments that we really haven't shared much about, but that I think are important for the purposes of countering the rise of hate speech. One is increased transparency. So we already disclose and publish reports on the volume of hateful content that we see, but increasingly we want to start reporting with more specificity about what types of trends, what does that look like specifically. The second is even more resources focused on community engagements. So we already have teams that are focused on working with groups around the world, but we're bringing on new dedicated resources that can discuss these types of very specific issues. So for example, we have a new member of our team joining specifically to engage with Jewish diaspora and understand the issues and the challenges of the community. And the third is really making sure that we have the right level of training and education. So for our teams, we have teams that come in that will help us train our moderation staff, train our moderators to identify and spot hateful content. We'll be increasing this training for our moderators to really be able to spot anti-Semitism and all forms of hate, really to make sure that if they're seeing it, we have moderators that work on specialized hate content cues, that they know how to look for exactly the right content.
No, and I'm sure the communities here would love to actually be involved in that, because it's very localized as well. And there are global trends, but we see in the communities a lot of local aspects of anti-Semitism that just get missed in comments, so definitely happy to make a connection there. And you also mentioned with AI, we actually did research and a project that we started looking at how generative AI can deal with anti-Semitic comments, and this is some of my friends and colleagues here in the crowd will be surprised for me saying, but I was wrong. We found in our research that we're actually pretty good at detecting anti-Semitism in comments and on the platform. So we are hopeful that there's space here, but platforms are actually reducing their use of automatic moderation, and that's going to be a big challenge for us. You have here a crowd of Jewish communities from 72 Jewish communities. How can they work with TikTok on these issues?
That's a great question, and you mentioned engagement. Ultimately, one of the best resources that we have to know, to inform what our policies should be, or to spot hateful trends, is through partnerships around the world and through relationships that can help us spot what is a very specific localized issue versus what is a global one. So we have dozens of partnerships of all kinds that we work with, whether it's academics or civil society, to help inform what our policies should be. But we also have, I think, over 24 Jewish organizations that are constantly feeding us intelligence and information when they spot violative trends. I think one recent example is the World Jewish Congress gave us intel about how people were celebrating the occurrence of Israeli wildfires online, which gave us the clue to essentially look for this type of trend and go out and find it and enforce it on the platform. So having those types of dialogues are really valuable for us, not just to know what is hate speech, but also to know if something is happening that we're not aware of, or that we don't know that people are finding new ways to express hateful sentiment, that we can go out and identify it and find it. We also spend a lot of time with Jewish creators, Israeli creators, getting feedback in terms of what their experience is like on the platform, and what other tools that they might look for. And so any type of dialogue that we can get, whether it's feedback, whether it's the opportunity to share what's working, what's not, is really important for us.
Yeah, and part of our idea is really to promote positive content on the platform. I think for us at the World Jewish Congress and the communities, we really want to have a positive conversation online. And so what are some kind of the tools that people can use to promote their content?
So it's a great point, that one of the things that I think we've seen in research is one of the best ways to counter hateful sentiment is through exposure and education. I think that's why initiatives like I was alluding to, doing the TikTok Show commemoration initiative, where we're training commemoration organizations, educators, on how to do content creation, to essentially get content out there, have an opportunity to share the voice, provide education. Those things are hugely valuable. We have team members that are based here, that are based all over the world, that work with partner organizations, creators, really with the goal of trying to cultivate a content ecosystem that can be creative and joyful. So the best advice that I have is really to lean in, to storytell. I think one of the things that has made TikTok a really great platform for so many is that it's built on the notion of discovery. It's not the case that the most famous people on TikTok are famous in real life. Our most successful creators are people that just put their voice out into the world. And I think that's very powerful for any type of community that's really looking to get their story out, to get their voice out, because it means create content, put it onto the platform, and the audience will be found.
Yeah, I think we've worked a lot and had TikTok actually come and train on online hate speech, but also we need more training definitely on how to help spread the positive messages, help spread the community's accounts and messages around the world. We'll be outnumbered no matter where we are, so we need that support. Before we conclude, is there anything else you'd like to share or emphasize regarding TikTok's efforts in this space?
I think it's important to really come at it from two sentiments. One is we're proud of the work that we've done so far. It's a very, very, very large challenge, and I think our ambition is to really take a long-term principled view and show up doing good work, and partnerships like this have been really meaningful for us. But the other is to recognize there is no finish line. There's no finish line to moderating hate speech, identifying hateful trends, trying to keep the platform safe. There's no such thing as an end game. And so really it's having that sense of humility to be constantly focused on how do we get better? How do we make sure that we're showing up for the challenge even as the challenge changes? And how can we be responsive to feedback that we're getting to make sure that we're constantly striving to create the safest platform possible and really to bring that vision of a inspiring creativity and bringing joy mission to life.
Yeah, I know people are always a bit kind of sensitive about issues about social media and the activities they do. So I will say we really appreciate the work with you and kind of the openness to listen and to improve, which we don't find everywhere. We're not going to talk about elephants in the room today, but maybe we finish with kind of back to the personal aspect. And I like this question. So when you open TikTok, what do you like to see?
I have 2 little kids, so I get a lot of dad content. We call it dad talk. And so I get a lot of parenting advice, which is quite helpful. I also, one of my favorite creators is a creator that tells music stories. They basically takes bands or musicians and essentially it tells their journey of who they were as a musician and then only reveals at the end who it is. So you sort of see the journey of the artist and then only at the end do you realize, okay, this is a very famous person. But when I travel, I also love to open TikTok and see the content ecosystem in the local market. So even opening it here, getting a lot of local flavors, a lot of stories about all the great restaurants that I won't have time to get to on my trip this time, but hopefully we'll be back. But really, I think everybody's feed will be very different. For me, a lot of that dad content is what I come back to at the end of the day.
I told you, I still really like this guy who goes around in LA and asks people with fancy cars what they do for a living. That's how I...
Great stories there, too.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you again, Adam, for joining us today, and really for the ongoing cooperation with TikTok. We've done a lot of great projects. I think everybody here should approach us, ask about working with TikTok, working with other platforms through our institute. Thank you for listening, everybody. I know there's a lot more to talk about today. You can find us outside, find us during the sessions, and help us connect. I do have the task of asking everybody to move. You do have a coffee break on the way quickly and get a quick coffee, but move to Teddy A, right? Teddy A, for our session with President Herzog and President Lauder. Thank you.
Thank you.